Hey guys, I'm gonna try this again. I feel this urge to share this video, and it's another one of my dream diaries, and so here it is. It started off with us being in outer space. I mean, I am a sci-fi person by nature. I kind of like sci-fi, but I have not watched it in a while, and I had this dream like maybe about 13 years ago. And in this dream, I was on board a spaceship, right? I know, right? Sci-fi to the max. And in this spaceship, I had a crew, and for some reason, I was the leader. I was the captain, and I wasn't flying it. Like, we had a team that was flying it, but I also had a team that was going with me, and there was a very important person that was my teammate. Yeah, this individual was very important to the team. Anyway, we had weapons too that were like automatic, big automatic weapons like guns, but it was more than that because these guns had lasers, they had rocket missiles and flamethrowers attached all in one. Like, it was the weirdest weapon. It was like very futuristic. And so we were aboard this ship, and in this dream, we had been flying through, I guess it was the galaxy. My cat keeps bumping the camera. We were flying through the galaxy, and we were trying to stop. We were on a mission, and that mission was to find the Antichrist before he had a chance to land on the Earth. And so we were trying to chase him before his ship was able to land on the Earth, which I know it is what it is. It was a dream, and that's all I'm saying. It's a dream. So when this ship landed, we were chasing him, and we couldn't keep up because while we were flying, it was like our ship had problems, and it slowed itself down, and we were gimping it along to land, but the Antichrist had already landed on the Earth, and I had a hint to where he had landed. I kind of knew, but our ship wasn't able to land where he was, and he was like a ways away from us before we could find him. And so our ship landed in this dream, and my crew members and us, we got off the ship, and we had landed in like this desert. It looked like it had reddish sand and like reddish white and brown sands, and it was a desert, but it was like the Sahara, but it really wasn't the Sahara per se. It was a unique desert in look. And I wanted to get off the ship because we were on a mission. We had to go find this Antichrist before he was able to get into the world the way he was. And my cat keeps getting my hand here. Sorry. Anyway, um, while we landed, the person that was the most important, that was like my second in command or whatever you want to call that, who was supposed to go with me, chose to stay with the ship. Chose to want to fix the ship and work on the ship because the ship was broken, whatever. And my crew that was supposed to go with me decided they were going to stay behind with this individual, which kind of makes me very mad because it's not like he needed anybody to stay behind with. Anyway, so I'm off trying to hunt the Antichrist, and I know the representation of the ship and moving forward on my mission is the fact this cat is not leaving me alone. But anyway, is the fact that I moved forward. I moved ahead with the mission because we were on a mission regardless of the ship. The mission was what was important, not being left behind for the remnants. This is what drives me nuts. Because in this dream, this individual that has a massive calling, okay? This person has a massive calling in real life. And so, anyway, sorry. My cat just keeps messing with things. But has a massive calling in life. He chose to stay behind when I needed him. Makes me still a little very upset to this, I think that I wasn't worth following on the mission that they were just going to lead me to what? My own demise while I was going, you know, whatever. And so I went ahead and I was following these tracks, and I was pretty sure I was headed in the right direction because it just, I knew where, and I can't explain where the Antichrist was going to try hitting first, and I'm not sure how I knew. I just knew. And so I'm following these tracks, and next thing I know, I'm walking through the desert. I don't know if my team eventually decided to follow me after I was already gone and almost disappeared because they were tracking me a distance back. But sorry, I'm trying to remember details. And so we were walking, as I was walking, I should say, because they hadn't caught up to me yet, and following these tracks. Next thing I know, I see somebody walking ahead, and I'm looking, and all of a sudden, I can see from the back, like oh, it's weird. Like he was in a white robe, and he had a golden breastplate on, and he had like an old one that kind of, I don't know what they used to tie it in front, but it was a breastplate, and he had the sandals that were like the Jesus sandals that you see that went up around the leg and tied, and he was wearing a crown. And it's the weirdest thing because it's like I see details as I'm describing it. And so beside him is walking a prophet, and this prophet had, like, he was bald. He was like in his 70s, I want to say, but he had a real thin fringe of hair that went around like this, and he had a pallor to his skin. Like his skin had like a yellowish cast, like not dark or anything, but just like kind of a yellowish pallor to him. And he was wearing an old gray tunic, like it had been, I don't know, used really well. And in one hand, he was like, his left hand, he was carrying a rolled up scroll. And his right hand, he was carrying a feather pen. So I'm following these individuals up to the table. Well, okay, so in Israel, the flat out overlooks to their city is called tables, like mesas, you know. They can get up them and look down and see if, like, the shepherds, if there's any wolves or bears or anything hiding down waiting for the sheep or waiting for them. Sorry, I'm just buggy today. Anyway, the whole thing was that with this king, he's been walking a long time in the desert. Like, I get the feeling that he's tired, you know. It's not his first journey. He's been going from town to town, city to city, as he's having these visions for the future of Israel. The prophet is writing them down and going on ahead to tell people and warn people what he's seen, what's coming. And so the king gets up to this table like this, and it's overlooking Israel, because as I'm looking in back of the king, because I'm in behind him, I was tracking, I see the dome of the rock sticking up just above the top of it, above the overlook. And this king is so tired and exhausted from walking that he sits down on a rock on this table just to rest for a little bit, because his feet is tired. He is tired because these dreams and these visions that he's having are heavy. They're heavy for his people, and he's carrying them in his heart. And I know about that because the dreams and visions I have, a lot of them impact the world, like land changes, drastic land changes that are coming and things. So they settle heavy in your heart because you see what's coming. And so the king sits down, and the prophet was like, oh, you need to rest. He's like, there really is no time to rest. We really need to be carrying on. But the king is like, I am just too tired. I need to rest. I need to take a break. And so the prophet's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to hurry to the next town and warn them with what you've seen is coming. So while this prophet wanders off, to the next town, the next thing I know, this king goes into a vision. And the king, in appearance, he had like spirals in the end of his hair, but it was like a dark reddish brown color, like more brown, but it had red in it, like a dark, dark brown, almost black, but with a reddish cast. And his cheeks were ruddy complexion, like they were red. And he was a king that had prophecy, that had dreams and visions, and um, he was a good king. He was not a braggart, because I say that because his crown wasn't large, it wasn't boastful. His crown was moderate, and it looked good on him. It was a golden crown, and um, he had a beard, and the beard was like his hair, but it was curly, and uh, he had the golden bracelets on his wrist, like the cuffs or whatever you call them, and it was really strange. But in this, his vision, as he's looking, and he's just looking like this, and all of a sudden he's just kind of relaxing, his body's relaxing as he's staring at the table, and or the mesa, whatever you want to call it in our terms. But as he's watching, then all of a sudden he sees these little blades of grass. Now, mind you, the mesa had no growth on it, or the table. It was barren, like desert barren. And as he's looking, he sees these little grass blades start springing up and sprouting up. Like, you know how they do the slow motion cameras on plants growing overnight from seedlings into the big plants? That's what this was like. He was watching, and he was watching green grass start out from under the ground and sprout up and grow and sprout up and grow. And once that whole table was filled with green grass, then all of a sudden a blue lake or pond. I'll say lake, because even though it wasn't a very big one, it was bigger than a pond. And it was clear water, and it sprung up in the middle of that. And as he's looking, and all of a sudden, I'm looking through him. It is so weird, because as he's seeing this, the only way I knew what he was seeing is because I started looking through his eyes. I don't know how that's a possibility, but it was like I was looking through his eyes, seeing what he saw. And he saw the blades of grass growing up, and he saw the lake appear. And as he's watching this, and I'm looking through his eyes, I can hear his thoughts, because he's doubting himself in what he's seeing. And he's like, he knows it's very important, and he wants to get it right, because there's not much time to be able to warn his people. And so he's searching in his heart of what he knows with what he's seeing, and weighing it with the word of God. And next thing I know, there's this crown of thorns that suddenly appears in front of his eyes, with a lamb in the middle. And the lamb looks into his eyes, through him into mine, and says, "Fear not, for I am he who was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and mute he opened not his mouth." So just as this had ended, the prophet had come back, and all of a sudden the prophet had seen the look on his face, and he goes, "Oh, so you've had another one." Now, I don't know what this means. I know there is attachment to it, but I do know that it pertains to two things here. One is a king who saw the future and who saw the promises, and another was for the Lord looking through his eyes into mine and identifying himself. But the other thing that I want to hit on is my teammate that was supposed to be with me. See, we were on board the ship before even landing together. We were flying together. And on top of that, when we landed, he was supposed to go with me and not forget that he had a mission. But somewhere along the way, he looked back. And deciding to stay back and looking back cost him. It cost him his memory of me ever being a teammate of his, or of us ever being together as teammates. And it cost him the knowledge of how close we were for him to be my second in command, which was very important. And the dream was so intense that at times it felt more like a memory than it did an actual dream, because I mean, I saw like the dome of the rock down in the distance. I could see the table was higher up, and I could tell you the colors of the grains of sand that were there. There were reds and there were browns and there were whites all together in this desert. And it wasn't like one color was drastic over the other. They all blended together in the heat. It was hot. It was like, oh, it was like not hot, hot per se, because I grew up in the desert in New Mexico, but it was hot. And so I just feel like this needs to be out there because this person that was a team member, um, was in the dream. And of course, it is a campfire dream deal. But this is the same individual who also has lost a lot more than just, the knowledge or the memory in the dream. He's lost connection. And, you know, it is so unique because when you're a team and you're close together as a team and you're working together one on one, it's like you can almost read each other's thoughts or you can almost feel each other's emotions because as crew members and team members, like in the military and things, you get so trained and so skilled in following your commander and knowing, just getting used to how your commander talks to you, how your commander commands you, that you almost immediately know how they're going to move, what they're going to do, and you don't get lost. As long as you follow what your command is. And so I'm not sure in this dream why this individual chose to ignore the mission, but chose to stay behind. And I think he thought that he was providing safety in the long run by fixing the ship. Yeah, anyway, that's not the first dream I've had about flying with this individual either. I know in another dream, this individual and we were together at a restaurant, and it was so weird because it was like he was trying to learn more about my interest and more about me. And I was like, I don't know, I was being very cautious and very hesitant about what I was saying because I just randomly don't just trust strangers. And so the next thing I know, we're in an airplane because I guess I was asked if not an airplane, it was literally a helicopter, come to think of it. I was asked if I had ever flown in a helicopter before, and I'm like, no. And so would I want to? And I'm like, I guess. I think I was more nervous about flying in the helicopter. And so as we're flying in the air, I couldn't help but be fascinated with how the lands looked above in the air. When you're way up high and you're looking down and there are little square patches and different colors and things. I could see that. And so I went flying with this person too. That's like the second dream that I've had with this individual, flying together. I mean, these dreams are there for a reason. And there's another time that this person in my dream, I had an option. I was given an option in this dream. And this dream option, I was able to go back to where I am now and become stagnant, or to move ahead and to help the world, because with what's coming, the world is going to need help, but because of ideas, not because I'm magic or anything like that, but with ideas, basically. And so, because I know I've received instruction regarding the coming shut-in. And so, anyway, this person, I was not sure in waking about what I was hearing and what I was, understanding. And so I decided I'm going to, test the ground. I'm going to pray that it's severed from me, that this individual, the ties will be cut, it'll be severed, they will be removed from me, because really there is no longer a reason to have this person in my life anyway, because I am, currently in a relationship, and I'd love to say it's a happy one. It's really not happy. Do I love the person? Yes, I love him, but more as a friend now lately, because he took an intimate part of what I offered to him from the Lord's and my time together. which was a very intimate place for God and I, because God was giving me dreams, has given me visions when I follow Him, when I seek Him with my whole heart. And I thought, well, some of these are impacting the future, for even me. And I should probably, allow my spouse to know this. So I brought my spouse in on it, and he did nothing but mock my dreams. To now, he's fighting me and saying he did not mock them, but God said he did. And God did tell me, He said, tell him twice now, and the third time he does it, he's not going to be able to go with me because we're still waiting to move. I know the Lord told me to be ready to move when He says to move, so it is coming. But anyway, I did not want to be that person, so I prayed. And I prayed that this tie would be severed from me, that I would not be bothered or hindered with these attachments to this individual anymore, or whatever, from the dreams, okay? The dreams. And so I'm asking the Lord, I really don't want to be fiddling around like this. And I just started crying and just begging the Lord just to sever the ties. And so then that night I had another dream. I had a dream that I had decided to walk away from this person. Okay, so I start walking back to my spouse, who currently is in a very hard place and is not following God. So I decided to go with my spouse because I'm in a marriage and I have to honor that covenant. And as I was walking back to him, then all of a sudden, this girl started wailing like in a song. She started singing and wailing, and of course there was a drum beat. It wasn't loud. It was enough to draw your attention to the words of the song. And the words of the song went, let's see, do not stop or do not quit, but hold your head up high. Do not go back, move forward, because the world is afraid to die. And as she's singing these words, it is in such a passion of singing that it started making me cry because I was afraid of moving ahead. I was terrified that I was making the wrong choice, that I was picking the wrong thing, and I just wanted to do what I felt God was wanting me to do, and by praying to have the tie severed in my head and all of that it was something He wanted. But then, all of a sudden in this dream, I turn around after that song and I'm crying and crying because it made me so sad, the words about, hold my head up high, do not quit, move forward, the world's afraid to die. In other words, if I go back, I'm not going to be able to share what I know because I'm going to become complacent and stagnant, and I'm not going to be able to help get that information out for when the times come, because there's times coming that I have instruction for that will help people in a way. And so in that dream, I decided then to turn around and move forward instead of stay behind, because according to the dreams that I've been having, I am currently in a process, which is a very hard and long and painful process. But then the next dream I had was with this person, and it was so interesting because there was like an art type building, or because I know another shut-in is coming. My dreams have told me that Jacob Sorrows is on the horizon. Another shut-in is coming. And while we won't be here to go through all of it, we'll be here to go through the first part of it. And so the thing is, in this dream, with this person, because I chose to go forward then at that point in time, we're on like this boat. Okay, it's like a big boat. And the boat is full of people who listened to us, who listened to our instructions. And so as the boat is filling with people, and of course they're not actively coming on, there are people that are already there who have gone with us through this process. And so I'm looking over the railing, and the railings would being built. They weren't built up yet, so I could get off the boat and go back to the land if I wanted to. And I'm looking at the land and I see all these people stuck behind, like I knew something big was coming. And so I decided to get off the boat because some of these people, they looked so sad. I wanted to go and get them and bring them on board. And so I'm going back to the land, or back to the stability of the land, if that makes any sense. What I'm used to, basically, because I see people I know that I want to go with me who cannot come because of the season that I'm in. But anyway, I decide to go over there, try to get these people, try to tell them why they need to follow us and come aboard and everything. But as I'm doing that, all of a sudden I look and the rails are going up and they're getting so tall that if I don't hurry up and leave now, I'm going to get left. And so I had to turn around and I ran toward the boat. I jumped over the rail just in the nick of time before they went up and nobody else could come on board. And it was so weird because while these things were happening, there was like these hoses, these long like fire hoses on this boat, which was like a huge ark, but like a people ark. It was so really weird. And so there were three hoses, and the first one started filling on one side of the deck. I think there was like four, actually, come to think of it, north, south, east, and west hoses on the deck of the boat. And so one would turn on for one side, the other would turn on for the other, and it was like a blast, a real fast blast of water pressure and water that we started filling this deck up. But it caused the ship in such a way, and it seemed like water. It might have been like, dare I say, liquid oxygen. I don't know, but anyway, we started filling the deck up, and I had to grab a hose and I had to start filling it too. The person I was with was on the other side of the deck filling one side, I was filling that side, and a couple of my family members were on the other sides filling it up. And as we filled up the decks, the ship started rising up. It was a boat, and it started rising up and separating us from the land and the people that were there, that were stuck on that land, that had refused to want to move forward and that chose to be complacent. So that was a very interesting dream. And yeah, this individual has been in more than one of my dreams. And I also saw a dream warning me that to stay here where I'm at, with who I'm at, I become complacent and stagnant. If I decide to do that, I give up. And because the depression of the individual overwhelms me eventually. And I just kind of had an early demise, like a knowledge of an early demise, because I had let myself die. I had given up because of the stagnation of this individual. So I know that I have to move ahead. I know I'm meant to move ahead, but I know I told the Lord, I said, I am absolutely refusing to move or leave anywhere without His presence. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to jump the gun and say, oh, these are of God. I mean, you really can't. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you. I felt like these dreams were important. Thank you once again for putting up with my wonky campfire dream stories.